Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name is Lisa. I am owner and creator of Gypsy Woman Charm. Today we are taking 3 items that I've thrifted from Goodwill and we're doing a fast and easy home decor flip with them. So I hope you enjoy all this content. Please subscribe and give me a thumbs up so that I can bring you future projects and hopefully some new techniques. Let's get started. Project 1. So I found this cute little small mannequin at Goodwill, and I thought, how cute would it be if I did it like in a Victorian shabby chic way, and it could sit on my makeup table and hold my necklaces and things. I think it's going to be really cute. So I'm doing a base coat with Fusion mineral paint in the color Bellwood, and I'm just doing all the wood pieces, so the stand and the little bit at the very top of the mannequin. And then we are going to go over it with some milk paint, Fusion milk paint. And we're going to try to get it some of that old time crackle look. So now I'm taking the Fusion milk paint in the color Toasted Coconut, which is a wonderful color. And I am mixing equal parts of the powder with equal parts water. And then I take my trusty little milk paint fork and stir it really well, and then I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes, usually about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll be ready to go over that Fusion mineral paint color. So now it's been about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm giving it one last good stir, and then I'm going to put a really good thick coat, not too thick, but you don't want a really thin coat either, over on the top of that Bellwood mineral paint. So after I get it on there, I will take my heat gun and zap it with my heat gun to try to maximize that crackle effect. So now after everything is dry, I'm taking the Patina roses in the Roycycled Decoupage paper. And I want mostly the pink flower color, the pink and the peach. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going through and I'm just tearing up all of the pink from most of the turquoise so that I can easily decoupage it onto the mannequin. Now I'm going to use two different mediums of decoupage because I am trying to use up some that I have left over. So I start out with the Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel, and I'm just taking and I'm using small pieces of the decoupage paper because it'll be easier to get it around corners and curves. So I'm taking a little bit of that, and later I will be using the DIY Liquid Patina to try to use that up too. So I'm just that way. If I have it, I'm going to use it, guys. So try to use everything up and not waste anything. I think it turned out so pretty. So now, after everything is dry, I'm taking DIY white wax, and I started out by using a wet wipe, but then I didn't like the way that was looking. So I switched to a piece of cotton tea towel and rubbed it on and then rubbing it off. And I think it just brings out the where the pieces of the decoupage paper meet. It kind of highlights that, and I like that effect. So after I'm through with the white wax, I will go back over it with clear wax just to lift up some of that white wax up off the project. I like doing my waxes like that with the dark or the white. If you use the clear after, it just kind of lifts up some of that color just to give it a more natural and soft look. And remember, whenever you use the milk paint, you always go over it with a wax or some type of top coat to seal it. And now I'm just going to finish the project off with a little bow of some gauzy ribbon, just to give it a final touch. And I'll show all the finished projects at the end of this video. Project 2. So for my next project, I have this wood crate that I've had for a while, and I wanted to do something with it. Wasn't really sure what I was going to do. So I'm taking the leftover Fusion milk paint, because you know I can't waste any milk paint, guys. So, and I'm going to go over all of the wood and give it just a really good coat. And then, of course, bring out my heat gun to give it a little bit of crackle. So now, after everything is nice and dry, I take my finger sander with 220 grit sandpaper. I give it a light sanding, except for the corners and the edges. I want to give it that distressed look, so I go a little heavier on those areas. And guys, make sure that after you do your sanding on your piece, that you wipe it down real good to get all of that sanding dust off, because you want it to be free and clear of any of that dust before you go to the next process on what you want to do for your project. So next I'm taking some Roycycled decoupage paper. I do not remember the name of this paper. It has a bunch of teacups on it, and it was in the one of the Sonnets maker boxes. So this is paper that was made specifically for the maker box. Every month, Connie with the Painted Photographer and Royce with Roycycled paper, they do papers specifically for the maker's box, and that's the only way you can get them. So I will leave the link in the description if you're interested in maybe trying Sonnet's maker's box. I am separating the verbiage from the teacup because I'm going to have to maneuver it a little bit on the side of the crate so it will fit. So I'm going to use the DIY Liquid Patina to decoupage these onto the crate. So at first what I do is I just kind of set it on top of the side of the crate and go ahead and just decoupage the whole thing, and then I come back later and cut that middle part out. And as I go along with the others, I actually cut the teacup in half before I do it. See, that just is not a good way to do it, how I'm doing it right there. So as I do the others, I take and I cut the teapot in half first, then decoupage the two pieces on. So now I have taken and I have done this process all around the entire crate. And now after everything's completely dry, I take my finger sander and I am just removing the excess decoupage paper. This is the easiest way to do this, guys. It's super easy and it gives a very sharp edge and just makes everything look really cohesive. And I don't show it on the video, but I do go over it with a clear wax, DIY clear wax, to seal it, because you always want to seal everything that you do to protect it. And look how pretty. Project 3. So next I have this little miniature breadboard. I think it could be wood, but I think it might be bamboo. I'm not real sure. But I take Fusion Mineral Paint in Upper Canada. I love this color. And I'm just going to do a little distress look on it. So I'm just kind of painting the center of the board, because later I'm going to be taking my finger sander and sanding it real well. But I decided to do both sides. So I did one side and then I turn around and I do the other side, because I'm going to have just a dual kind of look on it. So if you want to display it with one side one day and then another side the other day, that's what you can do. Give you some versatility. So now that it's dried, I'm taking my finger sander and with 220 grit paper on it, and I am just giving it a real good sand, especially around the edges, so that it looks like a natural edge there with that paint. And again, you always want to wipe all the dust off of it after you sand, because we're going to be using some transfers, and transfers will not stick if there's any of that sanding residue on your project. So I have some leftover scraps from a project that I did with the Featon IOD transfer packet, and so I'm taking it and I'm just kind of cutting it up, because it's going to be, the flowers are larger than the breadboard, so I want it to fit. So you just kind of cut it up and overlay things on the top and just kind of make it your own. And so on the one side I'm using the flowers, and on the other side I'll be using more of the natural herb-like plants. But you can do anything you want, use your imagination. You can do decoupage paper, you can do other transfers, you can do paint inlays, IOD paint inlays. There's just so much you can do with this kind of process. So now I am taking my Waverly antiquing wax and going over not only the board but also the transfer to seal it. And then after I use the antiquing wax, I'm going back over it again with the DIY clear wax, just so it will pick up some of that antiquing wax, so it's not so overpowering on the board. I love doing my waxes where I use the clear wax after to pick up the white or the antiquing wax, just to make it a better look, softer look. And to finish it off, I'm just taking some jute, wrapping it around, and I'm doing a tie on one side, and then I'm going, after I cut it, I'm going to take and do a tie on the other side, so you have the same look on both sides. I just love the way these projects turned out. They will be going throughout my own home, and I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making them. If you would like to recreate them, all of the items that you will need will be in my description box. And I hope you have a blessed day, guys.